Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox and I would like to welcome you to episode 170 of the FCPA Compliance and Ethics Report. The FCPA Compliance and Ethics Report is sponsored by Advanced Compliance Solutions. Today I visit with Froemel. Yaz is a PhD student in Germany who has studied in the United States but has developed a rather unique interest, and that's in facilitation. As for part of her, for her PhD dissertation, she has been studying this issue across the globe. She has studied at Columbia University here in the States and the University of Guadalajara, so she brings a wide variety of educational experience to her project. I was also very interested in her Facilitation Payment Conference that she has founded and will sponsor early next month in Frankfurt. She talks about it and how you may want to attend this conference. The episode comes in at just over 22 minutes. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you very much. Hello everyone, this is Tom Fox. I'd like to welcome you to this episode of the FCPA Compliance and Ethics Report. Today we are very privileged to have an international guest with us, Ms. Froemel from Hamburg?
Frankfurt,
in Germany.
Yeah.
And she has developed a very interesting interest in the area of facilitation payments. She has put together a conference in Germany next month on facilitation payments. She has founded the, let me get this right, the Anti-Corruption Forum. And she is doing graduate work and indeed a PhD on the subject of facilitation payments. There's not many people in the world really that specialty, so when I came across her information on LinkedIn, we got connected. And I asked her if she would come on the podcast, and she graciously agreed to take the time to do so. So with that somewhat long-winded introduction, thanks very much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot for having me. It's very nice.
So why don't you, the educational system in the United States and Germany are a little bit different. Could you explain how it is you were writing a PhD in a subject of law that's typically not something that a lawyer would do here in the United States?
Right. So in Germany, it's a lot of people, I spent a semester abroad at Columbia, and a lot of people were very surprised that I'm doing that. And in Germany, I have to say, it's a lot more common for law students to pursue a PhD. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you go into academia and you want to become a professor. You see a lot of practicing lawyers doing or having done a PhD. So yeah, I would say, I don't know the numbers, but I would say about 20%, maybe 10%. Yeah.
So tell us about your experience at Columbia.
Oh, I loved it. So I spent one semester at Columbia last year, starting in August. Wanted to look at the FCPA and the facilitation payments exception within the FCPA. So I got the chance to do a visiting scholarship there, and it was great. I really loved it. I got to know a lot of experienced lawyers from around the world, a lot of LLM students, and it's, as you said, it's a very different educational system in the States. So it was very interesting for me to see.
Now, as I understand it, you're writing your PhD dissertation on facilitation payments. How did you get interested in that specific subject? Because there's not many people that really focus on that singular issue.
So it's very interesting because I finished my studies in Germany about a year and a half ago, and I started working part-time in a law firm that does white-collar crime. And so at one point I knew I really enjoy criminal law, and I'm very interested in criminal law. So I knew I wanted to do something with white-collar crime, and I was looking through articles and reading a lot about corruption. And to be honest, I've never had heard about facilitation payments until I read an article by a German lawyer, Tobias Teike, who wrote about facilitation payments and only about facilitation payments. And I read it and I was like, this sounds very interesting. And then I took that, I went to my professor, and I asked him, is that a topic I could do a whole PhD on? And he was happy to do it with me. And so it's been a year and a half now. And yeah, I'm liking it more and more.
My father is or was a university professor. He's now retired, but he got his PhD when I was a teenager, so I'm well versed in the dissertation process, and I completely understand what that means. Working with your project sponsor, and then doing your own independent research, and later after publication, at least in the United States, you have to defend it in an oral test called orals. And but I know what a big deal that is, so I'm very interested. I think that anti-corruption community will be very interested when you are able to publish your findings and give us some of your conclusions. Unfortunately, we're not at that time yet, so we're not going to really delve into the substance of your work so far. But you are doing something very interesting upcoming. I should say, before we get to your conference, tell us about the Anti-Corruption Forum. What led you to found it, and what do you hope to achieve with it?
So, being at Columbia, I was able to organize a small, I don't want to call it conference, but a small series of lectures on transnational corruption with a friend of mine and the Center for the Advancement of Public Integrity. And really that got me going because I really enjoyed it. It was a great day. We had someone from the World Bank speak, someone from Siemens speak, and it was very interesting. So I came back to Germany and went to a conference on foreign corruption. And I sat there and I was thinking to myself, it's so interesting to have so many different perspectives speak about this topic. And especially when it comes to facilitation payments, as you already said, there are not that many people interested in this topic. Especially in Germany, it's even less than in the States. And so I thought it'd be interesting, you know, to have this topic in the focus of the anti-corruption debate. And yeah, and then I was thinking it'd be interesting to create a whole forum and to have the opportunity to repeat these conferences and do them over and over and have different topics of anti-corruption to be dealt with within a conference. So that's how the whole anti-corruption forum came about, and that's where the idea came from. And yeah.
Is that a topic that is of interest to German businesses or German lawyers or generally within the community that you play in?
So if you would have asked me this about 2 months ago, I would have told you no. Because especially at that conference I went to in January, I talked to a couple of people and I told them about my PhD, and everyone was like, oh yeah, interesting, but is it really, you know, can you really fit a whole PhD just on facilitation payments? And so everyone was a bit skeptical, and is it really that big of an issue? But now that the conference the invitations were sent out and we got all the speakers together, it seems like it is a big topic, and it seems like people are actually interested in it. And I get a lot of email replies saying, oh, that's great, and it's such an interesting topic, and great that you're doing it. So I think, yes, I think it's an important topic.
Certainly from the perspective of the American corporation, I think there is, I don't know if I would use the word angst around facilitation payments, but because of the basic difference in the structure of the U.S. Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and the U.K. Bribery Act, there's a question on administration of facilitation payments. So I live in Houston, a lot of energy companies in Houston. They all have North Sea operations. They all have UK subsidiaries. Large number of them have UK employees. My wife's a Brit. She works for an energy service company. So, and then of course they have contracts with UK companies, and that means they have to carve out a specific exception to their own compliance programs for facilitation payments if they allow them. And just from the administrative hassle alone, they find that challenging. Is that something that is of interest in the community as well, or does most companies just say, no, we're going to ban them?
No, definitely. So we have the same issues. A lot of German companies, or most of the big German companies, have subsidiaries in the States or the UK. And I would say a lot of them ban them internally in their compliance programs. But especially in Germany, it's interesting because it's not a clear, you know, in the US, it's clear there is an exception for it, even though the interpretation by the DOJ and SEC is another question. But it's clear that there is an exception, and the same applies for the UK. In Germany, they're not even, they're not mentioned. No one has stated anything about facilitation payments. So if you ask a lot of lawyers that are even active in the field of white-collar crime, they don't really know if they're criminalized or not. So it's a question of people don't know how to deal with them and what's legal under German law and what's not. So, yeah.
So a difficult question across multi-jurisdictional lines.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Well, now let's turn to your conference, because I was very intrigued by the agenda, the quality of the speakers you have, both from Germany and the United States. You have some really high-profile American lawyers coming over. So tell us, how did you come up with this idea, and tell us about the conference. And of course, I'd like my listeners to know how they might attend or register if they're so interested.
So I had the idea, as I said, with the whole Facilitation Payments conference after coming back from another conference. And I approached Deutsche Bank in Frankfurt to see if they're interested to host the conference and to be a sponsor. And they were very happy to do so. And we took off from there about 3 or 4 months ago. So really not that long. I would have thought we were going to start doing this in September, October. But so Deutsche Bank was a big help. And I started emailing, the people I knew from my research, and I knew that as you say, are leading lawyers when it comes to anti-corruption, especially facilitation payments. And I was surprised on how many people actually replied and how many people were so positive in their emails, especially because I'm just a PhD student, so there's no name behind it or, no big corporation. And so little by little, more and more speakers confirmed their attendancy. And really, it just went on from there. I had a lot of help from Deutsche Bank, and so it's taking place in a bit more than 2 weeks, so on July 2nd. And we've created a website where you can register on www.anti-corruption-forum.com. And right, you can register. It's for the whole day. It starts at 8:30 p.m. and it goes till 5. And what really was important for us is that we had to have speakers from different legal systems, to be as international as possible, to not only have lawyers but also have people from corporations, from universities. And that's how we put together the speakers.
I was able to pull down a copy of the agenda, and I just wanted to go through this because you're really exploring in detail a lot of questions that I don't think get the amount of attention because people just don't focus on facilitation payments. So you're going to start off with a session entitled "To Clarify Legal Ambiguities and Explore Facilitation Payments Within Different Jurisdictions." And here's the one that I really am interested in. It's described as participants will discuss concrete challenges on how to say no. So is that something that either in your research you found is an issue, or you hope to be able to communicate to the business community of how to say no? Because that's always a difficult question.
Oh yeah, definitely. What I always, what I find interesting, everything is very, I don't want to say easy, but it's easier. It's a question of what do you actually do when you come to that situation and you are in the country where it's, people expect you to pay these payments. How do you react? How do you react as a big corporation? How do you communicate with your employees on how to react in these situations? And I'm very happy that we managed to have the Chief Compliance Officer of Siemens on this, as we all know that Siemens is one of the biggest corruption cases. So, hearing their perspective on how they've dealt with it within the last years and what they've changed, and
you are going to facilitate or moderate, I should say, a panel on the issue of facilitation payments as a crime. And that obviously is on the forefront of many people who actually make the facilitation payments, but also for compliance professionals who have to give advice to employees and corporations. Can you generally describe what you hope to at least explore on that panel?
Yes. So, coming from a legal perspective, it's always a question on whether criminal law should be the tool of how to solve things. So, especially when it comes to facilitation payments, and also I'm looking at this in my PhD in depth. I find it very interesting if criminal law really has to be the answer to deal with facilitation payments. And I can tell you from a German perspective that, yes, we all criminalize them nationally. I would say I think I'm only aware of Thailand that doesn't criminalize facilitation payments within their national their national officials. So it's a question on why should Germany criminalize something that happens in Indonesia, and what's the interest for them to do so. And when it comes to regular corruption, it's easy because it's the international competition that's that you're trying to that you're trying to save. Whereas with facilitation payments, it's more the integrity of now I'm missing the word. Of what is it? So I'm missing the English word. That's always a problem. When it comes to facilitation payments, at least the reason in Germany is to save the national authorities. Mm-hmm. So do we really, as Germans, have an interest in securing national authorities in Indonesia? Right. And that's what I'm trying to see, whether criminal law is really a tool to solve this problem.
Well, I might put it in a different way, in a little bit different context, because I would say a business solution to a legal problem. And I see that in FCPA, where because Houston as a city has had more FCPA enforcement actions than any other city on earth, and that's due to energy companies being headquartered here, we have driven down compliance down the chain so that the smallest company who does work in the energy space has to have a compliance program if they want to do business with a larger company. So that's why I say we've actually developed a business solution to a legal problem. So perhaps in your investigation, in your research, you might come up with something similar for facilitation payments. And if you could come up with something like that, I think that would be a very welcome addition to the discussion, because companies are really trying to figure a way to do business in compliance with anti-corruption laws in a way that will protect them from, of course, legal or criminal liability. So if you can build those kinds of structures into your business relationships, which is what I see here in Houston, then perhaps that's one solution. So I'm very intrigued by that. So that would be really something that I think the compliance community would certainly discuss and may well embrace, if you could come up with a business solution to what we all perceive as a legal problem.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So you're basically saying criminal law should not be the solution to facilitation payments.
Well, what I'm saying is my experience in Houston tells me that companies can come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And if companies can come up with a solution and it makes business sense, which it has in Houston, because it's made the people you do business with assure you that they're not engaging in bribery and corruption. They have appropriate financial controls in place, and you're doing business with a trusted partner, at least ethically trusted, that you have a better business relationship. And if you can bring those sorts of concepts to the facilitation payment discussion, I think that many companies would very much want to embrace that, because having business relationships with better run companies, you don't have to worry about losing them as a supplier because of bankruptcy. You don't have to worry about losing them and them causing reputational damage to your company. You want to be associated with other companies that generally do business in compliance and ethically as well. So if you can have that sort of business solution to have a better business operation, companies will, if not embrace it, will certainly take a very hard look at it. So I'd be very intrigued to see what you come up with, because I don't really know of anyone who's looking at the facilitation payment angle from the business solution angle. So I applaud that effort.
Definitely. I mean, that's also what the OECD says in their convention and in their commentaries to the convention. So yeah, definitely, that's what I'm going to be looking at. I'll let you know as soon as I finish.
So you have a projected timeline for publishing your dissertation, or at least making it public?
Oh yeah, it's actually it's quite soon. I'm planning to finish in September.
Wow. And then do you have to do an oral defense like you would in the United States?
Yes, we do. It takes about, depending on your professor, how long they take to look at the PhD, you have to defend it, yeah, in probably 6 months.
And is your defense in front of a panel of professors, including your sponsor or lead professor?
Yes, it'll be probably in front of 3 professors. Yeah.
Well, I've seen my dad go through that as well, so I understand the whole process.
But I do, and I also have to say it's a bit different in the States. We only take about 1.5 years or 2 years for the PhD.
Okay.
So yeah, but still, yeah.
So unfortunately, we're near the end of our time, but I was wondering if anyone wanted to check out your anti-corruption forum, or look at the conference you have in July, or perhaps even get in touch with you via email. Could you give them contact information?
Sure. So the contact information you'll find on the website, but also my personal email is yas.froemel at anti-corruption-forum.com. It's very long.
And you there, because when you say minus, that equates to dash in the United States. So
oh, right. See,
so it is.
We say
dash corruption.
Yeah.
Forum.com.
That's it.
Okay.
And thanks for correcting me. It's the minus in German. I just converted that. I'm happy, if anyone has ideas on a new topic or would like to sponsor another conference, I'm, happy. We're happy to get in touch with anyone.
Well, yes, I really appreciate this, taking the time to visit with me. I'm very intrigued on your subject matter and your topic. And really look forward to continuing the conversation around facilitation payments and what other topics you might come up with. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thanks.
All right.
Hello, everyone. This is Tom Fox again. I'd like to thank you for listening to this episode of the FCPA Compliance and Ethics Report. If you are listening to this in iTunes, I would appreciate if you could rate the podcast on iTunes. It would help us with our rankings. And also, last time we had our first mailbag episode, so if you have any questions, I hope you will send them to me for the next mailbag episode. Thank you very much.